So we've made it to week 17, and we don't even need a week 18, knock on wood, to decide what's going to happen in the regular season. We are going to be picking, as usual, games for you against the spread. And 8 teams can get in with a win this week. So picking is going to be really interesting, especially, Gilo, because we're not certain who is going to play in some of these games, depending on what the playoff implications are. So why don't we start with a game which only has playoff implications for one team. 1 o'clock Eastern, Tampa Bay is 6.5-point favorites over the Atlanta Falcons. What's your read on this one?
It is an interesting one because the Buccaneers have clinched and they can't technically do any better outside of making sure they get into that 5th seed and travel to the winner of the NFC East, which I think is probably going to be something that the Bucs will want to do. So I expect that being said, I'm still going to go with the Falcons. They've been a tough out over the last couple of weeks. We saw that not only against the Chiefs last week, where they blew a chance to take it to overtime with a missed field goal, but they also went up big on Tampa 2 weeks ago, only to blow that lead, something that we've seen from the Falcons time and time again. But that being said, they were in that game, and I just don't like the spread at the sides that it is right now. So I'll take the Falcons and expect them to not win, but at least keep it close.
Yeah, I made the mistake in going against the Bucs against Detroit, a team that had nothing to play for last week, and we saw how that turned out. And I'm going to make amends and go with the Buccaneers because I do think they have a lot to play for, because that game, if you are in the 5th seed and you play the winner of the NFC East, it's pretty much like a bye. Let's be honest, right? The team that's probably going to win the division just cut their first round pick from a couple of years ago at quarterback with no real depth at the position. So I say all that to say I think Tampa Bay is motivated, another big performance. And they might be resting starters in the second half if that offense plays the way they did last week. I like Tampa to cover the 6.5. Pittsburgh is going to be resting some starters for the entire game. This is a very, I guess, crazy scenario where you have the team with the better record in division, and they are a dog by 10.5 points to Cleveland in Cleveland. Who do you like in this one?
I like the Browns to win this game. I think because they'll just end up being the more talented team. They'll likely be getting back the 4 wide receivers they were without last weekend and a couple offensive linemen, which obviously played a big role in that Jets game where they just couldn't run the ball, which is what they're supposed to be really good at. But I don't like them to cover 10.5. I think even with the Steelers playing Mason Rudolph and some other key starters, or not playing other key starters, it's going to be a tough out. These in-division games always are, and it doesn't change the fact that Mike Tomlin is still coaching this defense. So I think the Steelers will give the Browns a little bit more than they hope to get, but I do eventually think the Browns pull it out, but it won't be by 10.5 points.
So if this was the traditional Steelers, run the ball, play defense, I would agree. But they can't run the ball. 83.4 yards per game, last in the NFL. Myles Garrett loves the fact that Mason Rudolph is going to be playing quarterback. He maybe can get some revenge in between the whistles and not after the fact. And you mentioned the lack of receiver depth for Cleveland. Like, not only had those receivers not caught a pass in an NFL game before last week, they had to do a walkthrough in the parking garage the morning of the game just to make sure they were on the same page. And for some reason, Kevin Stefanski decided, I'm going to throw it 53 times with guys who have never played in an NFL game. I think they get back to running Hunt and running Chubb. And Pittsburgh can't run. So I think Cleveland is going to win this one and punch their ticket in the playoffs in a big way. The Jets aren't going to the playoffs, but they've been a team that like to spoil things. And as bad as the beatdown was for the New England Patriots in prime time, I think losing to the Jets might be worse in terms of where that former dynasty is. This line started at -9. It's moved all the way to 3. Has it moved enough for you to take the Pats as a favorite?
I don't think so. I really don't.
Wow.
I know it's crazy. This two things that I thought that I'd never say this season is 2020 is that I like Jets game against the and that I have no faith in Bill Belichick to bounce back from a bad loss. These are things that we're used to doing the opposite. We're used to saying the Jets are a bad pick, and we're used to saying that Bill Belichick's going to come out and get it done after a bad loss. But that's just not something that I believe that's going to happen. The Jets are playing good football right now, and the Patriots aren't. That's something that I just can't ignore at this point in time. So I'm going to take the Jets. This might be the one, the weekly pick where I look back on it and think, what in the world was I on when I made this pick? But yesterday when I looked at this spread, it made sense. It still makes sense today. So I'm going to go with the Jets.
Yeah, listen, Adam Gase might be the worst coach in football. He shouldn't have a job. And Bill Belichick, given his resume, is probably the best. But oddly enough, when you look at the rosters, the Jets right now have a better roster. They're certainly playing better as of late. And the Patriots, especially on offense, have really struggled. They scored 24 points in their last 3 games. I don't see them scoring enough to cover this line, even though it's just at 3. And for that reason, I can't believe it. For that reason, I'm taking the Jets. I struggle to get the words out.
No.
But yeah, I'm taking the Jets. I don't even know what to say. I'm taking the Jets.
Presumably in this scenario, we're picking the Jets to win 3 games in a row, which even 4 weeks ago would have been anything to say, but here we are.
So 2020. But we're taking the Jets. Baltimore has been an up and down team in 2020, but recently they've hit their 2019 stride, which is why they're favored by 13 points going to the Cincinnati Bengals. They're a team that if they get in, I would not want to play. The question is, are they going to get in? Can they cover 13?
Well, I think they're going to get in. I think they're going to beat the Bengals and be able to get into the playoffs. And I think you're 100% right. If I'm the Bills or the Steelers or whoever wins the AFC South, I do not want to play these Ravens. The offense is clicking. Lamar Jackson is playing his best football of the season, and the defense is still a really good Baltimore defense. And that's why I'm going to take them to cover. The last time these two teams played, I sillily picked the Bengals, and they got crushed. And the Baltimore is scoring early. Often they usually have these big spreads covered by the end of the second quarter. I think they're going to do the exact same thing against a Bengals team that's just got nothing left. They're just waiting for the season to end.
Yeah, the Ravens have now won 4 straight after losing 3 straight. Remember that losing skid was in the midst of their team really being hit with injury and COVID-19 restrictions. And now they're starting to get healthy and starting to get all of their players back and looking like their former selves. The crazy thing about this team is their point differential is 130. The best in the NFL. They're probably going to have the best point differential in the NFL 2 years in a row. Kansas City most likely is resting many of their starters. So, regardless of how this game plays out, Baltimore's probably going to have the best point differential in the NFL again this year. And I think they do cover a big number because what that tells you is when they win big. And I think they're going to win big against the Bengals. AFC East matchup to end the season. The Miami Dolphins have been winning but giving you a heart attack when they do it. And the Buffalo Bills have actually been the opposite. Not only have they won, they've taken care of business quite comfortably. And we see a small line in this one. Start at Buffalo at 5.5. It's now -1. Who do you like in what is basically a pick 'em?
Yeah, this is a tough game because we really don't know who is going to be starting for the Bills or for how long. My best guess is that we'll see some of the starters for some of the first half. But probably not a lot in the second because there's not that much to play for. But for the Dolphins, it's all on the line. And I expect no matter who is quarterback, that they're going to end up pulling out this game and getting into the playoffs. So I'll take the Dolphins to win against a backup Bills team in the end.
Yeah, I feel for the Dolphins. Schedule maker, not their friend. Is some of the other teams they're battling with to get into the playoffs in the AFC got a little bit of breaks depending on how you look at the schedule. And Miami got no favors playing the Bills. The Bills have covered 7 straight games, and you're telling me this line is only 1 point, and they're at home and they're rolling. I'm going to take the Bills to cover this one. I expect we see an appearance of Fitzmagic at some point, but I don't know if there's any magic left, and so I like Buffalo. The Dallas Cowboys continue to find ways to win when they really should lose, and now they face their rival New York Giants with an opportunity to sneak into the playoffs through the back door if Washington struggles. They're favored by -3 going to New York. Who do you like?
Yeah, I'm not sure which way you're going to go with this one, but I think you'd be pretty insane to not pick your Cowboys in this one. I think it'll be really interesting to see if they end up winning the division after such a terrible season, but the Giants just can't score points. And if there's anything we've seen from Dallas over the last few weeks, is that they can put up points. And I feel pretty comfortable taking them with such a small spread, given that the Giants' offense is terrible.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm pretty insane, but the Cowboys are making me insane.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because I had faith and believed in them earlier in the year. They put up a lot of points, but they didn't cover. I've since gotten off that bandwagon, and now all they seem to do is cover and now win games. And I'm going to continue to ride having no faith in them whatsoever, because this would be such a very Dallas Cowboys thing to do. It's to get everyone excited, get on the bandwagon. The receivers are making plays. Zeke finally decides he's going to run the football hard, take care of the football, only to have a huge letdown in a win if you want to get in game. So I'm going to take the Giants to cover, more so because I have no faith in Dallas. And although I don't have any faith in the Giants, my skepticism of them is a little bit less because at least I know their defense has been relatively consistent. So in a battle of two teams who will have lots of questions as to where they're going in the NFC North in the offseason, the Minnesota Vikings go to the Detroit Lions. Minnesota favored by 6.5 points. Who you got?
This has become a more interesting pick, I think, because of an unexpected wrinkle. It sounds like Dalvin Cook isn't going to be playing in this game. So that means that the Vikings are a lot less potent on offense. But there's no way I can take the Lions. What we saw, you mentioned it earlier, what we saw from the Lions last week against the Buccaneers was just an utter disaster, and it doesn't sound like Matthew Stafford's going to be able to play in this one. So if that's the case, I'll take the Vikings with Dalvin Cook or without.
Yeah, the Detroit Lions let us know that they are already into 2021. They are already into their offseason. And so the Vikings, much more talent on offense, even if Cook is not in the lineup. And so I'm taking Minnesota as well. So the Jacksonville Jaguars could play the role of spoiler. Remember, they gave the Indianapolis Colts problems to start the season. Will they do the same thing to end it? They're dogged by 14 points, though, going to Indy. Who do you like?
Yeah, I've ridden the Jaguars can keep it close against big spreads train for about 3 weeks too long now, and I think I'm going to finally jump off. The Colts, I mean, there's no other way to put it. The loss last week to the Steelers was a gut punch, and now they need some help to get into the playoffs. But I think they should be able to handle Jacksonville fairly easily. The Jags have lost the last 3 games by margins of 21, 26, and 24. So when it comes to Week 17 picks, this is about as easy as they come for me.
I'm actually going to go with the Jags. 14's a little too much. I've got real concerns about the Colts and their offensive line. They've shuffled the line a little bit. They've got 2 starters that are banged up, and Pittsburgh got home to the tune of 5 sacks. So I think this one is going to be relatively low scoring because both teams, their defenses are ahead of their offense. to put it nicely, for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see Indy really running away with this one. They had a chance to finish a game against Pittsburgh when they were up big and they couldn't do it. And I see this a similar pattern, so I'm going to take the Jaguars as the dogs. So the Tennessee Titans, despite a demoralizing performance in the snow, are favored by 7.5 points going to Houston, taking on the Texans and basically J.J. Watt and the fans, as he's called out the rest of his teammates for not really showing the level of care. I certainly don't care to watch this one, but I'm like betting it. 7.5 points. Is that too many points for Tennessee?
It is too many points. Yeah, I think the Titans will bounce back in this game. I don't expect them to lose it, and I think they'll clinch the division and get into the playoffs. But I don't expect it to be a blowout. The Titans' defense, to put it bluntly, is bad. And Deshaun Watson, even without Will Fuller, he's shown that they can put up yards and points. The defense can't really stop anybody, but the offense can put together some good games. So I think with Tennessee's fourth worst pass defense, and they're a team that has allowed the third most yards in the NFL this season, I expect the Texans will be able to stay in this game and keep it within a touchdown.
Yeah, you mentioned it's the pass defense and the fact that Deshaun Watson has put up, some big pass numbers, even though his receiving core hasn't been anything to write home about. My only real concern is his health. Got his hand caught in a face mask, assuming he's all good to go and he doesn't have any continuing issues with that throwing hand. I like Houston to keep this one relatively close, and I see it being a field goal game. Tennessee probably wins and gets in, but I don't think they win comfortably, so I'll take Houston as well. So the New Orleans Saints go to Carolina, where they face their former quarterback Teddy Two Gloves Bridgewater. 6.5 points is the line. The Saints are favored. The Saints need this one if they want to continue hopes of potentially being the number 1 seed or even holding on to that 2 seed. Who do you like in this one?
I like the Saints to cover this. I'm pretty comfortable with that pick. Like you said, they have a chance if Green Bay somehow loses to the Bears to get the number 1 seed. Like you said, they probably want to hold on to the number 2 seed as well. So I think the Saints will come out. We saw a historic performance from Alvin Kamara the last time this team played. And while the Panthers have been just okay, I don't think they'll be able to keep up offensively with what the Saints are able to do in this game.
Yeah, I like New Orleans as well. That front is really playing well defensively, and I think they'll be motivated to go into the playoffs on a high note. So I'll take the Saints to cover the 6.5. So 2 teams who just find ways to throw away games late. AFC West matchup with the Raiders of Las Vegas going to Denver to face the Broncos. The Raiders are a road favorite at -2. Who do you like in this one?
I don't like the road favorite. The Raiders have just completely crumbled down the stretch. Their only win since the middle of November came on that Hail Mary against the Jets, and that's it. They've lost all the rest of their games since that period of time. The offense is fine, but the defense is downright terrible, and I just don't trust them to beat anybody, even a Broncos team that there is, very little reason to trust them as well. But I like the Broncos at home, Mile High, and basically what it comes down to is not trusting John Gruden and the Raiders.
Yeah, I don't trust that secondary whatsoever. And after such a demoralizing back and forth finish to their game against Miami, where it looked like they were potentially in the postseason and then they potentially were kicked out, I think there's some hangover effect, and I do like Denver to not only cover this one, but to win outright. So after their most probably impressive performance of the year, the Green Bay Packers are 5.5 point favorites going to Chicago, who has looked a little bit more impressive of late and could be a playoff team in the NFC. Who do you like in this one?
It's pretty remarkable the Bears have got where they are at this point. A win and you're in kind of situation. with all the struggles they've had, especially at quarterback. But Chicago still feels like a pretender to me. Their last 3 wins coming into this game are against teams with a combined record of 11-34, and they've beaten just one team with a winning record all season, and that was the Bucks all the way back in October. So yes, the Bears are playing well. They're beating teams they should beat, but they're coming up against the likely MVP in Aaron Rodgers, the best offense in the NFL, and a team that beat them by 16 points back in November. So I feel pretty good about taking the Packers here, who have a ton to play for as well, with the number 1 seed in the NFC on the line. So yeah, give me the Packers by a touchdown, probably way more.
Yeah, I know the Bears have played much better. I know Trubisky has looked really, really good, but I still can't unsee and remove from my mind that they lost 6 straight earlier this year. And the Packers have been really, really steady. They won 7 of their last 8, and specifically their defense has been much better in the second half of the year. In the first 7 games, they were giving up an average of 27 points. In their most recent 7, they've given up an average of 20. And just keeping it, it's not a huge difference, but just keeping it at that number means that Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones have that much more room to play when they go off offensively. And I do think, even though the Bears are a really good defense, that Green Bay will have a big day and that they'll cover the 5.5. So AFC West matchup, 4:25 p.m. Eastern. The Chargers go to KC. The line is 3.5 for the Chargers. They're favored on the road against a team that's only lost 1 game. Where are you leaning in this one?
Well, it sounds like it's going to be Chad Henne under center for the Chiefs instead of Patrick Mahomes, and likely a bunch of other starters as well won't be playing for the Chiefs. But it's Henne under center instead of Mahomes that makes this a pretty easy pick for me when you think on the other side is Justin Herbert. I don't think it's that wild to pick Herbert over Henne at this point in time. So I'm pretty comfortable taking the Chargers against the backups for Kansas City, because I just don't see any reason to think the Chiefs will be able to hang around in this game.
Yeah, continue to watch throughout the week to see who is active and who isn't inactive on the Kansas City side, because that will certainly change the line, but certainly change where you lean in this one. My thing is, even if some of those big guns offensively are up for Kansas City, they've struggled in the first half of a lot of games. And if those guys are going to get a half and then be put on the shelf, I don't trust Chad Henne to come back the way Patrick Mahomes has continued to come back this year. And, Justin Herbert has had a magnificent rookie year. And I see him fortifying that and putting himself in rookie of the year conversation with a big performance against the defending Super Bowl champs. So I too are going to take the Chargers. Crazy week with some picks that you never thought you'd see, but I think they actually make sense.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope. Seattle goes to San Francisco in the 4:25 p.m. Eastern game in the NFC West, and the Seahawks are favored by 5.5. Who do you like in this one?
It sounds like Seattle is going to play all their starters and go for this one, despite the fact that they clinched the division last weekend, and it's because they still have an outside chance at that number 1 seed if things were to go very badly for the Packers and the Saints this week. But I'm still going to go with the 49ers in this one, just because the NFC West is a weird division. They play each other really close. We saw that last week when the 49ers, CJ Beathard, beat the Cardinals, led by Kyler Murray, just something that you never expect, and the Cardinals could only put up 12 points. So while I do think the Seahawks will be able to pull this one out, I think it's going to be closer than 5.5. I like it to be a field goal game, and so I'm going to take the 49ers.
I like the Seahawks, and it's all about their defense. Remember when we had huge questions about their defense, when their defense was on pace to be record-settingly bad? They're now 11th in defensive efficiency. The Carlos Dunlap certainly has helped, and they've now been able to rush the passer, and they've only allowed 9 points per game during their 3-game win streak. That defense, they feel like they're the best in the league. I don't know that that's the case, but they're good enough to stymie a San Francisco offense that is pretty shorthanded and has been pretty conservative throughout the year. So I'm going to take Seattle to cover the 5.5 in this one. So the Arizona Cardinals could potentially make the playoffs and be like a sneaky upset pick, or miss and have Cliff Kingsbury's job in jeopardy. The only issue is that the Los Angeles Rams maybe have as many questions about who is going to play and really what they're going to look like offensively, which is why the line is so close. It started at Rams at -4. It is now Arizona at -1. Who do you like?
This is another one that's pretty tough to call. I mean, it sounds like Kyler Murray is going to go. He suffered a lower leg injury last Saturday in that game against the 49ers, but they seem optimistic that he's going to be able to play in this game. While on the other side, Jared Goff isn't going to play. It's going to be John Wolford, who's never played an NFL snap. So if the Rams are able to pull this out and get into the playoffs with a win over the Cardinals, it would probably be Sean McVay's biggest achievement. But it's not something that I'm willing to bet on. So I'm going to say that the Cardinals end up winning this game.
Yeah, I mean, the Goff injury is big. And, John Wolford did lead the American Alliance of Football in TD passes. I just don't know if that's going to play in the National Football League in a game that is really, really meaningful for them, in terms of what their playoff future looks like. So I'll take the injured quarterback that I know in Kyler Murray if he's able to play, and then the one that I know for sure is not going to play in Jared Goff, and that's why I'll take the Cardinals. But this game might be really, really ugly to watch if both starters aren't in the game. But at least on the Arizona side, I know that from a backfield perspective, they'll have, their 2 running backs which are healthy, and both Rams, top running backs are dealing with high ankle sprains, which are not fun. So lots of questions. Continue to watch this one throughout the week to
Cooper
see
Kupp too
who's
is
up. So, yes, and Cooper Kupp, the 1A, 1B target on that offense with Woods is out. So I guess just because I have less questions about Arizona, I'll go with them, not necessarily thinking they're a better football team. But yeah, will be one to watch for sure throughout the week to see who's playing, and then throughout the game to see who makes it to the finish line. I've got the Cardinals as well. So somehow to end the season, the game that gets flexed into prime time is the Washington football team facing the Philadelphia Eagles. And in Philly, the football team is favored by 1.5. Now, that's partially because we're not certain who's going to play quarterback, which is a common thread throughout the games this week for Washington. But despite that, I'm not sure if it matters to you. Who do you like?
This is a tough one. It's the most 2020 thing ever that we get the NFC East flexed into the last football game of the year, the last regular season football game of the year. For me, this comes down to Alex Smith. If Alex Smith plays in this game, I really do like Washington to be able to win this game. The defense is a game changer, and we saw from the Eagles last week that the offense, even though Hurts makes it a bit more exciting, isn't really fixed. They've still got a lot of issues. But if it's Taylor Heineke, I don't really like Washington's chances, and I think they'll end up losing this game. But I'll bet on Smith right now being able to play. Keep an eye on it, like you said before, like the game, the Cardinals-Rams game. Keep an eye who's going to play in this game. But if it is Alex Smith, I'd bet on Washington, and so that's where I'm going to go.
I agree. Listen, this team is 4-1 when Alex Smith starts. They're 2-8 when anybody else starts. They're an entirely different team when Alex Smith is playing, which is a credit to him, who basically has the comeback player of the year named after him at this point. I gotta feel like they're pretty confident Alex Smith is going to start because they were so confident that they had the ability to cut Dwayne Haskins. And if you're telling me that Alex Smith is not up, and obviously Allen is not up as he's done for the year, and you were that confident that not only would you be able to get through this game, without the need for Haskins, but not even have him as a backup or in your building, I have to think that they're pretty certain that Alex Smith is close and going to be able to play. And for that reason, as of right now, I'm taking Washington. But if you hear that Alex Smith isn't playing, I think you run the other way and you grab Philly.
For sure.
Well, let us know. Hopefully your favorite teams get in, but more importantly, hopefully your bets pay out and you listen to us and we don't lead you down the wrong path. Either way, this has been fun. Thanks for hanging out, and let us know who you like, who you don't like. Hopefully you like us, and if you do, continue to like, favorite, share, and subscribe, and get ready for some playoff football. It's right around the corner. This is gonna be fun.